Good morning, everyone. This is James calling. Today, I want to talk about a few books. And from these angles of those few books, and I want to explain the essence of the clash of civilizations. We all know today, in the eyes of the American elite class, the competition between China and the United States is raging on, almost in every field, in geopolitics, in military, technologies, and culture, in every respect. And they feel they are threatened by the rapid development of the Chinese, of modern China, of the modernity of China. The former director of policy planning at the United States Department of State in the Trump administration, Karen Skinner, she gave a lecture at a foreign policy seminar on global challenges, sponsored by the New American think tank. She had the following words, I quote, "The rivalry with Beijing is a fight with a really different civilization and a different ideology, and the United States hasn't had that before. The first time that we have a great power competitor that is not Caucasian." Oh, by the way, she's black. So now, it is obvious or slip off, or it's an official statement, whatever your understanding could be, that it is an accepted idea by the elite class of Americans that between China and the United States, the fight is about civilization. I sort of agree with them, even though that no matter the difference between civilizations, we're all human beings. We are all on the same planet Earth. So we must have the more commons than the differences. But today, I'm going to talk about the differences anyway. When I was young in the university, I came across with one book written by the late Italian diplomat and also political theorist by the name of Niccolo Machiavelli. He lived in the 16th century. He wrote a book by the name of Prince. It's a general theme of the prince to accept the aims of the kings, of the prince, and of the royals is to have glory and survival, which can justify their use of immoral means to achieve those goals. And this book reminds me of another book that I read some time ago. It was written by ancient Chinese political theorist. He lived about over 2,500 years ago in the warring times of ancient China. It's about 390 to 330 or 40 something BC. He was then the prime minister to the kingdom of Qin, and that was a kingdom and finally produced Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, who united the whole territory of China. He wrote a book by the name of Shangjunsu. Translated into English is the Book of Shangjun. Basically, he stated the same principle, the same acceptance of survival for the kings, queens, the emperors, and the royals, which justified to use any moral means necessary to control the nation, to run the kingdom, to defeat the enemies. It's the same thing. The only difference is the time. The Chinese book, written 1,000 years earlier than the Italiano's book. And both books had an impact on those two different respective civilizations. The book by Machiavelli is regarded one of the first works of modern philosophy, especially in political philosophy. Machiavelli believes effectual truth should be more important than any abstract ideal. In the plain words, means that whatever means you do, whatever you say is all right, as long as you can achieve your goal of glory and survival. As long as, let's say those way, the ends justifies the means. That's what he means. And the ancient Chinese philosopher who wrote the Shangjunsu shares the same view. But the end result for those two books are dramatically different. The Machiavelli was really appreciated in a positive view, or at least secretly as a positive. There is a positive appreciation by the political elites in the Western world. And it becomes acceptable for the faults in the Western politicians. It doesn't matter which kind of background they're coming from, and what kind of bad deeds or immoral activities they carried out by themselves or by their family members, or both. They can be pardoned. They can be excused as long as they have effectively represented the certain interest groups, no matter it's the majority of the nation or the dominant power that controls the country. They can effectually achieve the goals of those people that he represents. he can be excused. He can be pardoned. Like Pompeo, that spoke about the institutions he was previously in charge, which is CIA. He can even proudly, openly talk about it, says, we lie, we steal, we cheat. That's the essence of the Western political system that allows the politicians to do whatever to achieve their goals for themselves or for the nation. So the boundary of morality is broken, has been broken. Or let's say there's not even a so-called morality boundary. That tells us Machiavellian are the instincts to be. All the politicians in the Western political system are allowed to be in somewhat degrees or levels as Machiavellians because they are politicians. In a common sense, the people almost resignedly are accepting that politicians are liars. The politicians are generally immoral. Okay, because they're politicians. That's how the Western ordinary people come to, how to say, coexist with the people that governing them who have some fault or other. But the same kind of book written by Shangjun or by Yang didn't come to the same good end of the Prince by Machiavelli. Because the Shangjunsu, as soon as it was published, or let's say written, it was only to the eyes of few. Even in the eyes of those few who were kings and emperors and royals, it was a necessary evil and should not be passed on to anybody that is not in that circle, because they believed it corrupts the souls of the nation, the souls of the ordinary people. So Shangjunsu was regarded as a 1,000-year forbidden book in the Chinese civilization. And we accepted the other philosophies by Confucius to be the normal or traditional philosophy to guide our political lives. In a Confucius understanding, a politician, a political leader, or the family who is governing China should be the first standard for them to be morally upstanding. they should be morally sound in order to be qualified to rule, to govern. And this kind of philosophy is going against the Machiavellian's type of political theories. So today in China, and also in some other nations in Asia, the qualification to choose, the criteria to choose a politician, the very first thing to see if he's morally sound, if he has got very pure characteristics regarding his personal life. But of course, we must also check if he really have achieved anything before he's going to take an even more important position in a respective political system. So that's vastly different from the moral understanding of politics between the Western and the Eastern. And now I will have to come to another person by the name of Brzezinski. Brzezinski was a Polish American. He was also a diplomat and political scientist. He was a counselor to President Lyndon Johnson and also President Jimmy Carter. He was the national security advisor to Jimmy Carter. He was a very famous scholar, and he was also regarded as an old friend of China because, and his major foreign policy during his time in office included the normalization of relationships with the People's Republic of China. And he wrote a very famous book. It's called The Grand Chessboard. It's about American primacy and its strategic imperative. But in September of 1995, Brzezinski coined a new word, treacherous. The word treacherous is built up from teats and entertainment. It's akin to the mothers nursing and conditioning children with a plug-in drug or dummy, let's say. Put the dummy in your mouth to keep the children happy, to keep the babies happy, to keep the babies from distracted or crying for nothing. The word treacherous that by Brzezinski was meant for the control of the nation, all the nations. He first used this word in a discussion with several world leaders who gathered at a hotel in San Francisco. That's at the invitation of Gorbachev, Mikhail Gorbachev. That was at that time was the president of USSR. they had a discussion concerning about so-called the future of work. They sketched out a kind of new social order, and everybody seems to agree that in the society of the 21st century, 20% of the people will work, and 80% will be just kept docile. Don't do fuck off. Be careful. 20% will lead you, 20% will do the work, and you guys can survive. 80% of you guys will survive on the works done by that 20%. And keep those 80% in a state of semi-hypnosis. By what means? By teetterment. The teetterment vividly describing a mixture of a deadly predictable and lowest common denominator entertainment for the soul and nourishment for the body. This is uncannily representing the practice that is, how to say, the kind of practice that's promoted by the book of Machiavelli and Shangjun, using all the way, every means, especially those immoral means, to control the world, to control the nation, to keep your people docile, to keep, let's borrow a layman's, to borrow a slang words, to keep people like to keep a mushroom, keep them in the dark and feed them shit. So they would be brainwashed from day one. They go into the primary school until they got a diplomatic certificates from the university, and continue on to their professional career. They will use Hollywood movies, they will use reality TVs, they will make up stories, and they will feed you alternative truths, not only about themselves, but also about outside the world. Basically, it's the same as Pompeo's we lie, we cheat, we steal. So what would be more interesting and feels morally high grounded than the slogan of democracy and freedom? These two words are supposed to be morally sound, morally upstanding, morally and politically correct. But to them, these two words only means a tool to achieve their goal of hegemony, power, and glory. Nothing to do with the real meaning of democracy and freedom. It don't mean anything. The essence of democracy and freedom means nothing to them. All they want is just the slogan, just the words, just the superficial sounding of it. Nothing to do with the real democracy and freedom. So that you can see from the personal background to the tools in the war chest of the politicians. If we see separately of the Eastern and Western, there is a difference, a huge difference, couldn't be bigger than the body of the Pacific Ocean between China and the United States. History told us none of the American presidents was faultless, no matter from their personal characteristics, from their deeds, from their behavior, or from the political tools they use to achieve the goals at a certain historical period of time. They not only cheat, lie, and steal, they kill. They're having affairs with the other woman out of wedlock. The skin, the Red Indians, after kill them. They are the slave owners. They invade the other nations. They bomb the shit out of the weaker nations and call them collateral damage. Immoral is allowed in the Western political sphere. If any of these things happens in the Eastern society, which including China, mostly China, and some other nations, smaller nations, it would be absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. You cannot accept the donations to the president-elect. You cannot have revolving door in China. You cannot have the retired politician to be employed by a multinational company to get $1 million a year of income. You cannot have all that. Even if your relatives that benefit from your political position, you'll be questioned. You'll be harshly punished. So in the Eastern philosophy, Machiavellian, this type of people are not welcomed, are not allowed to be the political leaders in a society. That also reflects onto the world stage, international stage. So between the struggle, the political struggle between United States and China, you can have the president like Donald Trump, the mouthpiece of Fox News or BBC, all these political opinion that's leaders, shapers, all these things. You allow them to make lies, to make fake news, just to thumb down the opponent, to achieve your political goals. and talking crap about your political opponents, no matter domestically or internationally. You ever seen Chinese leader doing that? You ever seen President Xi come onto the TV, come onto the national news platform, or using Twitters, or using WeChat to give you his personal opinion, especially biased personal opinion about the other country, about the other people? No, you don't. Because that goes against the grains of the society, goes against the political principle that upheld in Chinese civilization. So this is the clash of civilization. So today, in our Chinese circle, we no longer regard democracy and freedom as a positive words. We're joking about it. For instance, like the restriction of the audience volume to my videos on YouTube. We greet each other, says, have you been democracyed or freedomed? Because we're joking about it. We know that you are canceling our accounts. You restrict the volume to our videos. You delete our subscriptions. You even delete the numbers of views on the YouTube channels. And on the other side, you talk about freedom of speech. You promote so-called democracy and freedom. That's a joke. Why that's a joke? Because we have a big difference between the political theoretical guidance in our respective societies. Whatever you are allowed to do, it is against the own grains of society in the Eastern. So, from this point of view, I agree with Kieran Skinner. It is the clash of civilizations. So, next time, when I exchange the greetings with the other bloggers on YouTube or on the other Western media platform, if we find out our account is cancelled, if I find out our subscribers, our subscriptions to our channels are deleted, we shall say, hey man, have you been democracy or freedom? Because that's the clash of civilization. We use the same word, we mean different things. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Today, that's the topic of my understanding of the clash of the civilization. See you next time. Bye for now.